Boy, trying to keep under the radar of the Empire is no small feat. Andor episode 4. Yes, I had my review for the first three out just yesterday. But I'm now caught up, I think, ish. Whatever. Look, I've now seen this one and still real good. I'll tell you what this one really made me think about that they're doing a really good focus on. They're focusing on what something like the Empire does to people. And I don't mean like what it deliberately does. I don't mean like how it goes out of its way to oppress everybody and what those oppressed people are like. There's some of that. But right now, since the Empire is largely a minor bureaucratic presence, what this really does is just show the emotional and the mental toll of living under this, both for the subjects and even the people within that organization, within the Empire itself. Because you see with these various people, they are jockeying for position. There's this sort of backstabbing nature. Who do you trust? Who can you pull resources from? Whose head can you go over? It's designed to be not only competitive, but brutally so. And if you are not trying to claw your way to the top, then you are going to be sunk to the bottom very, very quickly. And that is made so clear. And it's great that, and I don't think that it creates necessarily empathy or overhumanization for the imperial figures that we've seen. But it does show that, this is a toll on them too. They're not happy. They're not okay with their own lives. This really benefits nobody. Everybody's miserable, just for slightly different reasons. People at the bottom because they have nothing. People trying to improve the system have to be paranoid, insanely paranoid, lest they get caught and get made examples of. And even the people who empower the system directly and theoretically hold power within it, they all seem miserable. That's perfect. That is absolutely perfect, because in a system like this, because the Empire is fascist, no one's going to be happy. Maybe the people at the very, very top. Even that I doubt for most of them. I like that it's giving us this perspective of how nobody is stable, even the people with power. And I don't mean that the Empire itself is unstable, but I mean as individuals, your station is just as tenuous as anybody else's. It just happens to be perched a little bit higher. And so we get to see Andor. We get some more time with Stellan Skarsgård's character, who I like. It was so weird seeing him with that kind of coiffed hair. I was like, what? That was a weird look for him. It was kind of cool, though. But we got to spend some more time with him. He brings Kassian in under a fake name to join the rebellion, or at least, for this one job. And I like, again, the back and forth that even with the people that they trust, these individuals are still super cautious. That the woman who's running the job, I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names. I know a lot of them got said, but I'm just bad with names. The woman who's running the job is ticked off that this new person is brought in, but is convinced, this is competent redundancy. You kind of need it for this because you right now have zero margin for error, whereas this gives you a little bit of leeway. So that is a good argument. And she brings him on board, but then has to bring him in under false pretenses, claiming that he was always going to be part of the plan. And because otherwise, the people under her won't trust her and won't be focused on the job. They'll be focused on him and this new guy. So everybody at every level, at every aspect, such deep distrust, because that's what this kind of ruling entity sows among its citizens, among its officers, and even among those trying to take it down. Nobody can trust anybody. And it's brought across really well Yet, I think partially maybe just because it's Star Wars and we know that eventually the rebels will win, there isn't that sense of doomerism that can sometimes accompany stories in which basically nobody can trust anybody. And that's not to say that those kinds of stories are bad. They can be quite compelling, but they are a difficult thing to have any amount of hope in. And when especially you're telling a story about people trying to hurt an empire, you would like to have some hope, because otherwise it's like, what are we even doing? But I think that's where the Star Wars setting really benefits this, because we know that eventually, even though any one of these characters could die, and one of them we know for a fact eventually will, even with that in mind, we know that eventually this is all going to pay off and the Empire will fall. And that knowledge, see, normally knowing stuff down the line hurts prequel stuff. Here, it helps keep the mood from feeling oppressive, because we know that as bad as it is now, they are going to get on the other side of that. And that foreknowledge makes this work better for me than it might have otherwise. It actually makes me really enjoy the tone. Whereas if this was a completely original property, I'm not going to say I would bail, but I wouldn't be enjoying it as much, because I'd be like, is this just going to be a misery factory? Because we've got people who don't trust each other fighting against an empire full of people who don't trust each other. Am I going to be able to relate or root for any of these people? That's where I would be if this was not set in a world I already know, where some of the outcome of this is a foregone conclusion, at least the eventual long-term outcome. But because that's there, I know it's all going to be worth it. I know that even if this series gives me a lot of downtrodden and a lot of misery, I know what they're fighting for, and that ultimately their side will win. This is, in a way, the kind of thing that you can almost only do with a prequel. And it's one of the few times where I can say that this being set prior to events we already knew is actually an advantage to the storytelling. And it is an advantage to my ability to have fun with it and enjoy it, because the general tone of this is not fun. But I know they will win eventually. And so I will put up with a lot more dark tone than I might have in other circumstances. It's pretty rare for something being a prequel to be an advantage. It's usually a detriment somewhere. It's not here. It helps. And the performances are all still great. I love that, the rebels are out in the woods. They've got these freaking goats or sheep or whatever. And the Empire is this super clean, super sterile, super white. But again, everybody's miserable. The visual contrast, while still emphasizing that this system is bad for literally everybody, I'm really here for this. I'm really enjoying this. And we'll see how many of them survive when they go for this job. I am curious to see where the weasel turd, the guy, the deputy inspector or whatever he was, who kind of bungled the mission in the previous episodes. I'm gonna be curious to see where they're going in terms of following him for longer now that he's been let go. That I'm not entirely sure where that's going. I'm going to be curious to see where they take him. And other than that, it looks like we've got, some Imperials that are starting to track what the rebellion is up to. We've got Mon Mothma trying to run as much as she can very covertly. And we've got this job planned. I want to see how all of it moves. I want to see how it fits together. I want to see what we get. Andor, episode 4. What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills, and it allows me to do this as my living. Like, share, subscribe also help me out immensely, but even if you aren't able to do that, don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can come on back next time you need a break. Time to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons. That would include Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Theotha Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Idolin, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shayla Gourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. If you want your name said while these guys try and distract me, consider looking at the rewards on my Patreon.